as UNESCO unloaded another plan. So that one was from a couple years ago. Well, they just unloaded another plan. And this document came out this month to regulate social media and information they find is unworthy of meeting their narrative standards. You must meet our standard of lies. You must meet it. This 59-page document, that was a long read, I'll tell you what, called Guidelines for the Governance of Digital Platforms, outlines the plan for the creation of an internet of trust. Look, I'm getting tired of the internets, guys. You've got the internet of things, you got the internet of bodies, you got the internet of education. Now I got the internet of trust. Can you guys come up with something else? I think we got enough internets. Honestly, get a little bit more creative. And did I mention that the WEF is working in conjunction with this? That should be no surprise. Let's take a look. This comes straight from the World Economic Forum website. UNESCO wants to develop an internet of trust. Again, find something else. We've got enough internet of things. Seriously. Here's its guidelines. UNESCO has released guidelines for the governance of digital platforms in a bid to protect people's rights online. That's cute. Oh, you're adorable. It includes 5 principles that aim to prevent issues such as misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, and conspiracy theories. The WEF's toolkit for digital safety design interventions and innovations aims to harmonize universal perceptions of online threats following a fragmentation of efforts to tackle issues from cyberbullying to hate speech. Again, this hate speech thing is just, it's made up to control, because they can change the definition of hate speech at any whim that they want to. It's kind of like they changed the definition of recession when we entered a recession, what was officially declared as a recession, and they altered the definition of it. So we weren't in it. Kind of interesting how that works. Okay, so 59 pages. You guys ready to go through all 59 pages? No, okay, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. The objective of this plan, though, is to create a series of measures for governments, digital platforms, civil society, media, academia, tech community, and other stakeholders to counter mis and disinformation, hate speech, and conspiracy theories. That's their own definition. Now, who regulates what falls into those categories? That's always the thing. So they come up with the terms, they come up with the definitions of those terms, and then they're going to govern the definitions of those terms. They're all on the same team. How is that fair? That's not playing fair at all now, is it? They can just change it whenever they feel like we've been talking about. The same people who created the science want to eliminate critical thinking and warp the souls of men to follow mystery religion. They're the ones in charge of it. So let's take a look at some of this plan. Again, we're not going to look through all 59 pages. That was a joke. Don't leave. There's just a couple things that I do want to point out that I find interesting. So let's take a look. Guidelines for the governance of digital platforms, safeguarding freedom of expression and access to information through a multi-stakeholder approach. Sometimes it's just hard not to laugh. Safeguarding freedom of expression. Okay, let's try and focus. Let's try and focus. Guidelines for the governance of digital platforms. So the objective of the guidelines says, building upon relevant principles, conventions, and declarations UNESCO developed through multi-stakeholder consultations and a global dialogue, the present document guidelines for the governance of digital platforms, safeguarding freedom of expression and access to information through a multi-stakeholder approach. So building upon relevant principles, conventions, and declarations. So again, they created the foundation and then they're adding more on top of it. So it says the aim of the guidelines is to safeguard the right to freedom of expression, including access to information and other human rights in digital platform governance, while dealing with content that can be permissibly restricted under international human rights law and standards. Okay, so right off the bat, we have to understand what they're basing this off of. They are basing it off of their own document, their own Bill of Human Rights. So they're trying to make everything based off of that. So here in the United States, I know there's people in other countries, and you guys have your own sets of rules and stuff. I'm not even going to pretend to be an expert on that stuff. I'm not even an expert on the US stuff. I just know enough, I guess, to get by. But we have the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Now, freedom of speech covers everything that they would deem as hate speech, or is goes against human rights, or cyberbullying, or anything like that. If you have a problem with somebody, even if it's something that has to do with race or religion or anything like that, you have a right to be able to say, I don't like you because of that. At the same time, you don't necessarily have the right to go into a crowded building and shout fire. That's a dangerous problem. But if you dislike somebody based on racial prejudice, you have a right to that. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to jump over that. And I'm not advocating saying that's a good thing, just because I know somebody's going to say, you see, he advocated for racial stuff. No. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to overstep that, at least here in the United States, and make it, we have our own rules, and so we want to base it off of that. So if you don't like somebody because they have a certain color of skin or a religion, that's hate speech, and we're going to shut you down. Or in some cases, I mean, we see all the time that the people get arrested and imprisoned for that type of stuff. But they're basing everything off of their own human rights document, not off of what each country out there has in their own set of rules. So that's a key thing as we look through this. It's all based on that. So again, they set the standard, they set the rules, and they set the definitions. They're in control of all that. And so they can change it whenever they feel like it, according to what they don't like you're doing. All right, let's keep going. The guidelines seek to contribute to and be informed by ongoing UN-wide processes, such as the implementation of the proposals in our common agenda. Now, this is important. Our common agenda. If you guys have been watching my End Times New Age series, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Our common agenda. Remember that conspiracy theory that I brought up in the very beginning when I talked about how the Rockefellers and the Carnegie Endowment helped orchestrate World War I to get Woodrow Wilson in so he could establish the League of Nations, which eventually became the United Nations? Well, what came from that involves an agenda piece called Our Common, Our Common, hold on. Is that the right one? Nope. Next one. Sorry, guys. Our common agenda. So our common future. That is, because the one word is different. I wanted to make sure I got it right. What came from that was an agenda piece called Our Common Future, which eventually became Our Common Agenda. So what they would deem as conspiracy theory that led us all the way up to this point in order for them to deem it conspiracy theory is right there in the agenda. You see how that works? So they're trying to black out their own history by doing this. So I just wanted to point that out because I found that very interesting. All right, so if we keep going, November 1945, UNESCO was created with the mission of contributing to peace and security. There's everybody's favorite two words, by promoting collaboration among nations through education, science, and culture in order to further universal respect for justice, for the rule of law, and human rights and fundamental freedoms, such as the affirmed of the people of the world. So again, here we go with the justice. That's your social justice, and the human rights that's based off of that. UNESCO's global mandate, which includes the promotion of the free flow of ideas by word and image, has guided the organization's work for nearly 80 years. As a laboratory of ideas, a clearinghouse, a standard setter, a catalyst and motor for international cooperation and capacity builder. This history has also shaped the organization's mandate within the United Nations systems to protect and promote freedom of expression, access to information, and safety of journalists, both offline and online. Access to information. They don't define what that means. Now, in our brain, in our mind, access to information would be the internet and anything anybody puts on it. That would be access to information. Doesn't matter what is said, doesn't matter what the information is, anybody has access to that information. They don't define what that means. They could set a limit on the access to information and say, look, you still have access to information, but it's only the information we're allowing you to do. Remember that video that I just showed where it showed the UN global communications, Melissa Fleming, where she said, we own the science, we're working with Google to make sure that our stuff pops up only on the search engines. Those are the first things people see. That's part of this access to information that they're doing. They're setting a limit on it. They don't actually define it in this document. They just continue to say access to information. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to what they're going to be doing with this. The role of civil society and other stakeholders. Every stakeholder engaged with the services of a digital platform as a user, policymaker, watchdog, or by any other means as a vital role to play in supporting freedom of expression, access to information, and other human rights. Again, they just continue to throw those same things out there, just like they throw out democracy. It's the same stuff. Here we go with the education. Educators and caregivers have a critical role in helping young people and learners of all ages understand the wider digital environment, including how to look for and understand credible information and how to respectfully engage with others online. This is also a role in providing lifelong learning as technology changes rapidly. So again, they continue with the education theme. We just went over that. Now, I found this one interesting. Any specific decisions about the legality of specific pieces of content should follow due process and be open to review by an impartial and independent judicial body. Here's the problem with that. They set the rules, they set the definition. So if there is some third party, some impartial judicial committee, which good luck finding any judicial committee that's impartial. Again, I've always said that politicians and judges should have to do what NASCAR drivers do. And you know how NASCAR drivers, anybody who sponsors them, they have to wear a patch on their suit or their car. I think all politicians and judges should have to do the same thing. Just throwing it out there. But again, they set the standard of it. So even if there is an impartial judge involved, if he has to rule according to the rules that they set, it doesn't matter who's judging it if they have to go off of those rules. So that's something to keep in mind. So even if you're not breaking a true legal law, they don't care because they set the standard on that. So I found that very interesting. He's got two more of these guys. Two more. Media and information literacy. So here we go with the media literacy again. Media and information literacy covers a broad range of skills and allows users to think critically. Again, I don't think they know what that means. They think critically about the information they interact with online. Media and information literacy should be addressed specifically through the governance system to ensure that all stakeholders, that's their governance system, by the way, including digital platforms, are effectively playing their part. Media and information literacy programs should promote cultural diversity. Here we go. Should promote cultural diversity, social inclusion, and global citizenship. Here we go with the globalism again, the one world, as well as the social justice stuff, and aim to reduce the participation gap between people who are engaged in the creation and critical use of media and information consent and those who are not. Media and information literacy programs should also promote gender equality and women's empowerment and provide opportunities for participation by groups in situations of vulnerability and marginalization. Media and information literacy programs should promote gender equality and women's empowerment. That is the same stuff that California has now introduced and New York is introducing as well, and more are going to fall in line with this. This isn't just about blocking kids from being able to access certain information or think for themselves. No, this is about, again, indoctrination of it. I've talked about this. There is the spiritual aspect. They are trying to go for the child's soul. They're going for the soul. They're going for the beliefs. This isn't just about, again, forming some communism people that you're just going to go along with it because you're told to go along with it. That's what they set up. This is about getting people to actually believe in this stuff. Satan wants the soul. Again, we talk about how when he's setting up his Antichrist beast system, this isn't just about setting up control just because, haha, it's fun, something to do. No, he wants people to turn away from God and to worship him. He doesn't want people just to go along with what he's trying to do. He wants people to worship him. He wants people's souls. He wants to bring them down with him. And so we're continuing to see more and more of this. This is the spiritual warfare. This is the stuff under the surface. They just want you to just look at the basics of it, just the outer layer. Dig into this and see the spiritual warfare. Again, this isn't just a war of flesh and blood. That's what Satan wants you to focus on. This is the spiritual warfare that they're talking about. There is a fight for life and death, not fleshly life and death, but soul, eternity. And Satan's going to make sure that he's going to do everything he possibly can to try and make sure that people not only convert to worship him, but to make sure that they don't turn the other direction and turn towards God. He wants to block that. He understands that if people just know, there's a better chance for them to turn around. But if he gets to the soul, it's a much, much harder chance to try and convert somebody. I mean, there's a difference between trying to change somebody's beliefs and change somebody's mind. As you know, there's some stubborn people out there, but it's easier to change somebody's opinion than it is what they actually believe in. So something to keep in mind on that. Last one. Platforms adhere to international human rights standards, again, their own bill, including in platform design, content moderation, and content curation. Digital platforms should ensure that human rights and due process considerations are integrated into all stages of the design process, as well as in content moderation and curation policies and practices. So again, all platforms that offer this digital information, social media, what news, any type of thing, you must adhere to the policies and the rules that we set. And then make sure that you follow those by eliminating anybody who goes against it. So that's kind of a little rundown on that new thing that they've been putting out. So why are we talking about this? Well, we talked about the UNESCO teachers thing a while ago, and now it's being implemented. This is going to be implemented too. This is what they're doing. While it might not come into effect right now, it's going to come into effect at some point in time. And we're seeing effects of it, but this seems to be a more full-on assault lockdown on social media and news outlets. So this might be the big bomb that they've been waiting to drop on all this.